So, question number 23, which asks what are the rights and liabilities of the buyer before and after completion of sale, and regarding that, we would like to discuss those liabilities before completion of sale and such are the buyer is bound to disclose to the seller any fact as to the nature or extent of the seller's interest in the property of which the buyer is aware and which materially increases the value of such interest. This duty extend only to nature and extent of the seller's interest in the property. So, also the buyer is bound to pay or tender the purchase money to the seller, provided that when the property is sold free from encumbrances, the buyer may retain out of the purchase money the amount of any encumbrance on the property existing at the date of the sale, and shall pay the amount so retained to the person entitled to that. So these rights are of the buyer before completion of the sale. So also it is relating to the rights after the completion of the sale. So the buyer's right after completion of sale, as we found, the buyer is entitled where the ownership of property has passed to him to the benefit of any improvement in or increase in the value of the property and to the rents and profits thereof, as regarding the very rights of the buyer after completion of sale in comparison to the rights before the completion of sale, as the buyer is entitled unless he has improperly declined to accept delivery of the property to a charge on the property as against the seller and all persons claiming under him for the amount of any purchase money properly paid by the buyer in anticipation of the delivery. And now we'll go to those liabilities of the buyer that before the completion of the sale. So here the buyer is bound to disclose to the seller any fact as to the nature or extent of the seller's interest in the property of which the buyer is aware and which materially increases the value of such interest. This duty extends only to nature and extent of the seller's interest in the property attained. So also one other liability that comes before completion of sale of the buyer is the buyer is bound to pay or tender the purchase money to the seller, provided that where the property is sold free from encumbrances, the buyer may retain out of the purchase money the amount of any encumbrance on the property existing at the date of the sale, and shall pay the amount so retained to the persons entitled thereto. And the another one is that the liabilities of the buyer after completion of the sale is to bear loss to the property and also to pay the outgoings. So these are the rights and liabilities of the buyer before and after completion of the sale. And regarding question number 24, that is, what are the rights or seller's right before and after completion of sale in the absence of a contract to the contrary, and that will discuss with some important leading cases. So the seller's right before completion of the sale is that the seller is entitled to the rights and profits of the property till the ownership thereof passes to the buyer. It should be recalled that a contract of sale does not create any interest in favor of the purchaser, and therefore he cannot claim the rents and profits until the ownership passes to him. In case the seller refuses to execute the sale deed as agreed, the purchaser is entitled to claim compensation from the date when the deed should have been executed. If the buyer takes possession before the completion of sale, the seller is entitled to interest on the unpaid purchase money, as it was decided in this leading case, Mangu Solve versus Mangu in 1917. So the seller is entitled to interest on the unpaid purchase money. And now we'll discuss another important leading case, that is Harendranath Ghosh versus Union of India in 2007. The Calcutta High Court expressed that the question was whether estoppel applies to rights and liabilities of the buyers and sellers. The court held yes. In this case, the land was purchased by the government department. The title of the land and marketability were thoroughly searched and ascertained. As regards price, the parties agreed that the valuation by collector would be accepted. The parties are stopped from challenging the transaction on ground of overpricing. After sale, no right except those under Section 55 can be enforced. The sale is not void on allegation of overpricing or inadequacy thereof, as it was held in this important leading case, Harendranath Ghosh versus Union of India in 2007 by the Calcutta High Court. So, what are the rights of the seller after completion of the sale? And that is, in simple, is charge for the unpaid price. And in that connection, we will discuss one important leading case, Telit Ram versus Kasibai in 1909, decided by the Bombay High Court. So, the very charge for the unpaid price the seller is entitled where the ownership of the property has passed to the buyer before payment of the whole of the purchase money to be charged upon the property. So, in the hands of the buyer, or any transfer without consideration, or any transfer with notice of the non-payment for the amount of the purchase money or any part thereof remaining unpaid. So, in that connection, the very right of the seller after completion of the sale as expressed by the Bombay High Court in this leading case Dalit Ram versus Kasi Bai in 1909 that the charge may be excluded by express contract or by circumstances which necessarily imply the existence of an agreement inconsistent with the continuance of the charge, or the seller may by circumstances be precluded from availing himself of it. Such an estoppel may arise when received for the whole purchase money having been endorsed on the deed of sale. A subsequent transfer from the purchaser is led to suppose that nothing remains due to the original seller. Similarly, if there is an agreement between the parties that the buyer covenants to pay a third party as to the unpaid price, the charge is lost as it was held by the Bombay High Court in this important leading case, Dalit Ram versus Kasibai in 1909, regarding the seller's right after completion of the sale. So, we have discussed up to 24 questions relating to property law with their relevant and appropriate answers as provided respectively by the different important sections relating to Transfer of Property Act 1882. So also, we have discussed the appropriate and relevant leading cases relating to such questions as we found appropriate in answering these questions. So, in our next upcoming video, we'll discuss all the rest questions relating to property law.